Yasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhani Vallabha Girivardhani Yasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Vrajajana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jayam Vishnadha Mahamsa Parivakacharya Stadru Sada Shishamad His Divine Grace H. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ki ISKCON Founder Acharya His Divine Grace H. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki Mayapur Dham Ki Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Ganga Maya Ki Jai Yamuna Maya Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Harinam Sankirtan Ki Prayatmadanga Book Distribution Ki Go Premanandi Hari Hari Bo All glories to some devotees Hare Krishna All glories to some devotees Hare Krishna All glories to some devotees Hare Krishna All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga All glories to Srila Prabhupada Krishna Kirtan Prabhu, did you find the reference yet? Yeah. Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktivinoda
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktivinoda.
Reading from the Sri Caitanya Charitamrita Adi-lila Chapter 10 Text 48 Tanra upashakayata Kalinagaram jana Satyaraja Adi Tanra Kripara Bhajana Tanra upashakayata Kalinagaram jana Satyaraja Adi Tanra Kripana Bhajana Tanra Upashaka His sub-branch Yata All Kalinagrami Jana The inhabitants of Kalinagram Satyaraj of the name Satyaraj Adi heading the list Tanra his Kripara of mercy Bhajana recipient. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace His Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. One sub-branch of Haridas Thakur consisted of the residents of Kalinagram. The most important among them was Satyaraj Khan, or Satyaraj Vasu, who was a recipient of all the mercy of Haridas Thakur. Please repeat. One sub-branch of Haridas Thakur consisted of the residents of Kalinagaram. The most important among them was Satyaraj Khan, or Satyaraj Vasu, who was a recipient of all the mercy of Haridas Thakur. Purport. Satyaraj Khan was the son of Gunaraj Khan and father of Ramananda Vasu. Haridas Thakur lived for some time during the Chaturmasya period in the village named Kalinagaram, where he chanted the holy name, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and distributed his mercy to the descendants of the Vasu family. Satyaraj Khan was allotted the service of supplying silk ropes for the Jagannath deity during the Rath Yatra festival. The answers to his inquiries from Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu about the duty of householder devotees are vividly described in the Adi-lila, chapters 15 and 16. The village of Kalinagaram is situated 2 miles from the railway station named Jorgrama on the New Cord line from Howrah to Burdwan. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very highly praised the people of Kalinagaram, and he stated that even a dog of Kalinagaram was very dear to him. So there's a reference here from Adi-lila chapters 15-16 on more of the pastimes of the residents of Kalinagaram with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I was looking it up yesterday, and I marked the sections in my book at home, but I forgot to bring the book, so I'm just trying to see if I can find it here. Just bear with me for a minute. If anyone else can look it up on their phone.
A little bit in here.
Chapters 15-16, the pastimes of the residents of Kalinagaram with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Starting there, just up on your side. 249. Is that one?
Yeah, that's one of them. So, during the this is Adi-lila chapter 14. During the Pandava Vijay, Lord Jagannath was carried, and while he was being carried, a bunch of silken ropes broke. When the Jagannath deity is carried, at intervals he is placed on cotton pads. When the ropes broke, the cotton pads also broke due to the weight of Lord Jagannath, and the cotton floated in the air. Ramananda and Satyaraj Khan were present from Kalinagaram, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with great respect gave them the following orders. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ordered Ramananda and Satyaraj Khan to become the worshippers of these ropes, and every year bring silken ropes from their village. After telling them this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed them the broken silken rope, saying, "Just look at this sample. You must make ropes that are much stronger." Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then informed Ramananda and Satyaraj Khan that this rope was the abode of Lord Shesha, who expands himself into 10 forms and serves the Supreme Personality of Godhead. After receiving orders from the Lord for the rendering of service, the fortunate Satyaraj and Ramananda Vasu were highly pleased. Every year thereafter, when the Gundicha temple was being cleansed, Satyaraj and Ramananda Vasu would come with other devotees and with great pleasure bring silken rope. Thus Lord Jagannath returned to his temple and sat on his throne, while Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned to his residence with his devotees. Thus Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed the Rath Yatra ceremony to his devotees and performed the Vrindavan pastimes with them. The pastimes of Lord Chaitanya are unlimited and endless. Even Sahasra Vadan, Lord Shesha, cannot reach the limits of his pastimes. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishnadas, narrate Sri Caitanya Charitamrita, following in their footsteps. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the Sri Caitanya Charitamrita Adi-lila, 14th chapter, describing the Hera Panchami Yatra. See if we can find the reference here.
103.
Is this where it starts?
103.
103. So this is the Adi-lila, chapter 15. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya offers prasad to the Lord. After this, Ramananda Basu and Satyaraj Khan both submitted questions at the lotus feet of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Satyaraj Khan said, "My dear Lord, being a householder and a materialistic man, I do not know the process of advancing in spiritual life. I therefore submit myself unto your lotus feet and request you to give me orders." Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu replied, "Without cessation, continue chanting the holy name of Lord Krishna. Whenever possible, serve him and his devotees, the Vaishnavas." Upon hearing this, Satyaraj said, "How can I recognize a Vaishnava? Please let me know what a Vaishnava is. What are his common symptoms?" Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu replied, "Whoever chants the holy name of Krishna just once is worshipable and is the topmost human being." Purport: Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna once, a person becomes perfect. Such a person is understood to be a Vaishnava. With such faith and belief, one may begin a life of Krishna consciousness, but an ordinary person cannot chant the holy name of Krishna with such faith. This is confirmed by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Upadeshamrita, Krishneti Yasya Giritam Manasadriyeta. One should accept the holy name of Krishna to be identical with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Transcendence Himself. The holy name of Krishna is also identical with Krishna and is also Chintamani. The name Krishna is the personification of sound, perfectly transcendental and eternally liberated from material contamination. One should understand that the name Krishna and Krishna are identical. Having such faith, one must continue to chant the holy name. When one is situated on the neophyte platform, one cannot understand the devotional ingredients of a pure, unalloyed devotee. However, when the novice engages in devotional service, especially in deity worship, and follows the order of a bona fide spiritual master, he becomes a pure devotee. Anyone can take advantage of hearing about Krishna consciousness from a pure devotee and thus gradually become purified. A devotee who believes that the holy name of the Lord is identical with the Lord is a pure devotee, even though he may be in the neophyte stage. By his association, others may also become Vaishnavas. One is known as a materialistic devotee if he simply worships the deity of Hari with faith, but does not show proper respect to the devotees and to others. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.247. Achayam evihariye ya pujam shariyayate natad bhakteshu chanyeshu sabhakta prakrita smrita. Anyone who engages with faith in the worship of the deity of Hari, but does not show proper respect to the devotees and to others, is known as a materialistic devotee. However, by associating with a neophyte devotee who believes that the holy name of the Lord is identical with the Lord, one can become a devotee also. When Lord Chaitanya was teaching Sanatana Goswami, he said, "A person who has attained firm faith is a real candidate for advancing in Krishna consciousness. According to the faith, there are first class, second class, and neophyte devotees. One who has preliminary faith is called Kanishta, or a neophyte. The neophyte, however, can become an advanced devotee if he strictly follows the regulative principles set down by the spiritual master. The pure devotee whose faith advances becomes a Madhyama Adhikari and Uttama Adhikari." From C.C. Adi-lila. It is thus concluded that even a neophyte devotee is superior to the Karmis and Jnanis because he has full faith in chanting the holy name of the Lord. A Karmi or Jnani, regardless of his greatness, has no faith in Lord Vishnu, his holy name, or his devotional service. One may be advanced religiously, but if he is not trained in devotional service, he has very little credit on the transcendental platform. Even a neophyte devotee engaged in deity worship in accordance with the regulations set forth by the spiritual master is in a position superior to that of the fruitive worker and speculative philosopher. So here's a very nice pastime of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with the residents of Kalinagaram, and Satyaraj Khan, who's one of the most elevated residents of Kalinagaram, is asking these very important questions. He asks, "My dear Lord, being a household and materialistic man, I do not know the process of advancing in spiritual life. I therefore submit myself onto your lotus feet and request you to give me orders." So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied that without cessation continue chanting the holy name of the Lord, and whenever possible serve him and his devotees, the Vaishnavas. Then Satyaraj Khan is asking, how do I recognize a Vaishnava? What are his symptoms? Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied that whoever's chanting the holy name of Krishna just once is worshipable and is the topmost human being. Excuse me. So this is very important instructions from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that whatever situation we're in, even if we're in a situation of household life where we're caught up in so many materialistic dealings, so many distractions of life, that we just should go on chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra incessantly and serve Krishna and serve the devotees, associate with the devotees. In this way our spiritual position will remain very secure and very strong. Because the holy name, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, is the Yuga Dharma, it's the process for attaining love of Krishna in this age of Kali. Simply, we've been given this simple process. All we need to do is chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and render service to Krishna in a variety of ways, associate and serve Krishna's devotees. Simple process. We don't need to be a great scholar. Even, no, we may not, most of us weren't born in any sort of spiritually advanced family. But the holy name, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, is the most powerful process, and it's identical with Krishna. It's non-different from Krishna on the absolute platform. Everything to do with Krishna, whether it be his name, his form, pastimes, qualities, is good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the material world we may chant, like Prabhupada says, we may chant Mr. John, but you're not going to get the association of Mr. John just by chanting Mr. John. But by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, we're directly associating with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself. And it's said that all of Krishna and all his incarnations are present in the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and all of Krishna's qualities, forms, pastimes, etc. And the whole, material and spiritual worlds are all present in his holy name. Nama Chintamani Krishna's Caitanya Rasa Vigraha, that the holy name of Krishna is non-different from Krishna. It's full of the unlimited potencies of Krishna. It's not a material vibration affected by the modes of material nature. So there may be in this material world, there's so many distractions to Krishna consciousness, to spiritual life. But somehow or other, I was always taught that somehow or other, hang on to your bead bag. Always keep your hand on your bead bag. And it's said that especially in Grihastha life, now these residents, they're asking about, Grihastha life and what should one do in such a position when he's sort of caught up in so many dealings in household life especially. And I was always taught that, household life is like a roller coaster. You're going up and down, up and down. Sometimes you're completely immersed in household life and completely caught up, and seems like there's no time for Krishna consciousness, and other times, you feel very strong and you're taking a lot of shelter of Krishna consciousness. But devotees always said to me, just hang on to your bead bag. It's like you're on a roller coaster. You're hanging on like one devotee from Melbourne, one of my godbrothers, Keshiva Prabhu, he loves going on these roller coasters, these crazy rides at like Movie World and Sea World. So when he comes, sometimes he takes me up there, and I don't like going on those rides, and I just have my beads there and I'm chanting at the top of my lungs, thinking these cars they could fly off any time. So that's what it's like in the material world. It's a very dangerous place, and we experience this in household life. There's so many dangers, so many distractions, but somehow we have to hang on to the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra for our dear life, and understand that by chanting Hare Krishna and serving the devotees and serving Krishna, then we can remain strong and fixed in Krishna consciousness. So this chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is directly transported from the spiritual world, Goloka Premadana Harinama Sankirtana. It's directly transported from Goloka Vrindavan and Rati Najan Milokanataya, that we don't have a taste for chanting Hare Krishna, but somehow if we go on staying fixed in the process of Krishna consciousness, gradually that taste will come about. When the heart becomes more and more purified from greed and lust and anger and envy and forgetfulness of Krishna, then gradually, side by side, we develop more and more taste for Krishna's holy names in the process of devotional service. And we feel more kinship in associating and serving Krishna in the association of devotees. And we feel more taste in hearing these wonderful transcendental pastimes of the Lord and His pure devotees. So yesterday Vasudeva Prabhu was talking about the wonderful pastimes of Haridas Thakur. So Haridas Thakur is the Namacharya, the Acharya, the teacher for chanting the holy name. Of course, we can't imitate these great souls. Haridas Thakur was chanting 192 rounds a day, which takes at least 20 hours or maybe more a day. But we can follow in such great elevated souls' footsteps by seeing how we can always engage in chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, in engaging in service to Krishna and the Vaishnavas, and engaging in preaching Krishna consciousness. And it's, of course, we should try and chant always, like Srila Prabhupada says that one who chants at least 16 rounds attentively on his beads and unlimited rounds off his beads is surely the greatest meditator by practicing this yoga system. So we should, 24 hours a day, we should be trying to practice, to chant, to remember Krishna, to serve Krishna, to hear about Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada has given us a variety of ways in which we can do that, through chanting japa, kirtan, sankirtan, preaching Krishna consciousness, serving the deities associated with devotees, taking prasadam, doing so many varieties of service, even humble services like cleaning the floors, different services, cleaning the pots. I remember, I used to clean the pots a lot in Sydney Temple, and although it's very humble service, it's very ecstatic, very purifying. Prabhupada said, like cleaning the pots, when you clean the black off the bottom of the pots, and you can practically see your face in the bottom of the pot. It's like cleansing the heart, the black, the forgetfulness, the anger, the envy, the greed that's situated within our heart, cleansing that away through this process of Krishna consciousness. And it becomes so cleansed that you can practically see your own self, and you can see the super soul or Krishna within the heart. And the devotee in pure Krishna consciousness, he's always thinking of Krishna's pastimes, thinking of Krishna's qualities, thinking 24 hours a day how to please and glorify Krishna. And this is the business, like chanting Hare Krishna, this Yugadam process, and serving the Lord and serving the devotees. This is our business, and we see that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even though He's God Himself, He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, He's a combination, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Radhi Krishna Nahi Anya. He's non-different from Radha and Krishna, a combination of both. He was always chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and always associating with his devotees and always preaching Krishna consciousness. And other acharyas, Haridas Thakur, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada himself, they were always chanting and preaching Krishna consciousness. And yesterday I read about Vishajan Swami's brother passing away, Revati Nandana. Previously he was Swami, and Dinabandhu was stating that he travelled with him for some time and that they preached in different universities, and he was stating that Revati Nandana Prabhu was such a great preacher. He was a cousin of Vishnujan Swami. So many of these great souls in the ISKCON movement, like Vishnujan Swami himself, what was his business? He was always chanting. He was always doing kirtan for hours and hours, every day with the devotees on the streets, and always ecstatic kirtan in the temple. So this is our business, just japa. We have our japa, chanting for our own meditation on our beads. Kirtan, we chant in the association of devotees, and Sankirtan is the wider chanting, going out and giving out Krishna consciousness, spreading this Krishna consciousness movement in the form of Harinam Sankirtan on the streets, book distribution, prasadam distribution. And there's a verse, I can't remember the Sanskrit, it's in the Bhagavatam, but it states that one who is chanting the holy name of the Lord is considered that he's already bathed in all the holy places, studied all the scriptures, performed all the austerities, and achieved all the good qualities of the Aryans. Maybe someone knows that verse. Anyway, so anyone who chants, even this, the verses here are stating that even if one chants once, purely, or it doesn't even say purely, it says one who chants once is considered a very elevated soul. I've just lost the, where are we here? Okay. Whoever chants the holy name of Krishna just once, he doesn't even worshipable, and is the topmost human being. The first line of the purport, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur says that simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna once, a person becomes perfect. Such a person is understood to be a Vaishnava. With such faith and belief, one may begin a life of Krishna consciousness. So even it says in the Bhagavatam, the 6th canto, Sankecham Parishashyam Vastobam Helanam Evava. Even if one chants derisively, sometimes people, they criticize devotees, look at those Hare Krishnas, they're wasting their human form of life, something like that. Or people chant jokingly or neglectfully, like Ajamil, he wasn't even indicating the holy name of Krishna. He wasn't indicating the Supreme Lord, he was indicating his son, whose name was Narayan. So even if one chants for different reasons like this, one is freed from all sinful reactions from many, many lives. So if one is purified from so many sinful reactions just by chanting, indirectly or derisively or jokingly or for musical entertainment, what to speak if we chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, render pure devotional service purely, how much benefit is there? I was reading a chapter of Krishna book to my children last night, and it was talking about how Kamsa was Krishna conscious, but in an unfavourable way. But 24 hours a day he was Krishna conscious unfavourably. While he was walking, while he was talking, while he was eating, while he was sleeping, while he was sitting, he was always thinking of Krishna, but he was thinking how to kill Krishna, and that Krishna is my enemy. And what was his destination? He was killed by the hand of Krishna, directly by the hand of Krishna, but he achieved liberation. He achieved impersonal liberation. So what to speak if we render service 24 hours a day to Krishna favourably? We can't estimate the the potency, the benefit. Srila Prabhupada said, back home, back to Godhead. We have the chance in this one life of solving all the problems of life, birth, death, old age and disease, and so many tribulations of this material world, becoming fully Krishna conscious in this one life and going back home, back to Godhead, back to the topmost part of the spiritual world, Goloka Vrindavan, where we can directly associate and serve Radha and Krishna, the divine couple, along with their associates, and in the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, and also Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates had their pastimes in Goloka Vrindavan as well. So it's stated that we can simultaneously have pastimes with Radha and Krishna and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates in Goloka Vrindavan. So this, even though we've been in this material world for millions of lifetimes, it's considered we're Nityabhata, practically eternally conditioned, going through many different forms of life. But if we just give this one life to Krishna, like Srila Prabhupada said, if you just give this one life to Krishna, give up sense gratification for one life, and fully immerse yourself in Krishna consciousness for one life, then you can go back home, back to Godhead at the end of this life. And even it's considered you've gone back to Godhead in this life. Iha yasha kale, iha dasha, iha kale, I don't know this. Kamana manasa gira nikalas kapya vasasu divan muktas uchate. That a person who has engaged his words, his mind, his activities in the service of Krishna is considered a liberated soul, even while living in this material world, in this material body. So we can be in the spiritual world right here in this life. Like Srila Prabhupada said, these temples, these ISKCON communities are they're replicas of the spiritual world. Just like in the material world, you have your embassies, like the American embassy or the Russian embassy in Australia. The people there working in those embassies, they're not under the laws of the ordinary citizens in Australia. So similarly, when we take shelter of these embassies of the spiritual world, like New Govardhana, there's no influence of the modes of material nature. As long as the devotees are fully immersed in spiritual Krishna conscious activities, there's no influence of the mode of ignorance or passion or even goodness here. So in this way we've already achieved the topmost liberation, and the highest liberation is to be always Krishna conscious, never forget Krishna, always remember Krishna. All the other rules and regulations hinge on these two things. This is real liberation, to always remember Krishna, always be immersed in thinking of the glories of Krishna, and always be immersed in preaching Krishna consciousness. And this is in this way, even any one of us who are very conditioned souls of Kali Yuga, before coming to Krishna consciousness, full of so many bad qualities, addicted to so many sinful activities, meat eating, illicit sex, gambling, intoxication. Anyone, even the most sinful person, can be elevated to a pure devotee through this process of chanting Hare Krishna, the process of devotional service. Yatakan chanatam yashi kam shamrasha vidanatam. In the Hari Bhakti Vilas it states that as an alchemist can transform base metal into gold by mixing it with mercury in an alchemical process, so a bona fide spiritual master can transform an iron-like conditioned soul into a golden-hearted pure devotee of Krishna through the bona fide process of bhakti yoga, devotional service. So this is as many other spiritual processes in the 5th canto in the pastimes of Chad Bharat and Maharaj Raghunatha. It states that unless one receives the mercy of the dust of the lotus feet of pure devotees, very difficult to make advancement. And it states there's many other processes for spiritual advancement, like observing strict rules and regulations of a brahmachari, celibacy as a brahmachari, following the rules and regulations as a grihastha, becoming detached as a vanaprastha, being fully renounced as a sannyasi, or in the middle of summer, surrounding yourself by blazing fires, or sitting under the blazing suns, like some yogis in India, they do that, they perform these austerities, or they submerge themselves in the cold water in the middle of winter. But it says, unless one receives the dust to the mercy of the pure devotees upon their head, unless they smear their whole existence with that dust and mercy, it's very difficult to make advancement through these different processes. So this process of Krishna consciousness, chanting, dancing, feasting, simple process, shortcut process, back home, back to Godhead. It's like you can scratch your nose by trying to go like that, or you can just go like that. Or you may try to climb to the top of a mountain, like Mount Warning, and it may take you many, many hours. And you may not get to the top till nighttime, and then you're stuck. But if there's a chairlift going to the top of the mountain, then very quickly you can get up to the top. So this Krishna consciousness is the shortcut process to become purified, to become fully Krishna conscious. Even Prabhupada says, in a moment through this process of bhakti yoga, you can be Krishna conscious. Or if you don't apply this process to your life, it may take millions of lifetimes to become Krishna conscious. So there's one story in relationship to this, that the shortcut process, there's a man and he somehow gets to meet the President of America. And he comes into the office and he noticed the man's got a red phone and a gold phone on the desk. And he asked, so what is the red phone for? And the President said, oh, that's so I can ring the President of Russia. And then the man says, oh, what's the golden phone? And the man says, well, that's a direct line to God. But it's a long distance call, so it's very, very expensive. You won't be able to afford it. It'll be millions of dollars a minute. And the man sort of says, oh, okay. And then he goes to Russia and he meets the President, and the same thing. The President's got a gold phone and a red phone. The red phone, he says, is for ringing the President of America, and the gold phone's for a direct line to God. But he said, no, it's a long distance call. So you end up paying millions of dollars to speak to God. So the man, he hesitates. He hasn't got the money. So he leaves. Somehow he winds up in Vrindavan, and he comes to the Krishna Balaram Mandir, and he meets the temple president. What's his name? Panchagauda Prabhu. And he says to Panchagauda Prabhu, what's the red phone? And Panchagauda Prabhu says, oh, the red phone, that's to ring all the different temple presidents of ISKCON around the world. And then the man says, and what's the gold phone? And Panchagauda Prabhu says, oh, that's a direct line to Krishna, to God. And he says, go ahead, be my guest. And the man says, oh, won't it be very expensive? And Panchagauda Prabhu says, no, it's a local call. In other words, once you're at the lotus feet of Krishna in Vrindavan or Mayapur, or any of these temples which are as good as Mayapur and Vrindavan, then you're very close to Krishna, very close to perfecting your life. So, and another story to indicate the potency of those who are chanting the holy name. Once there was, Srila Prabhupada said he had a dream that there was a Harinam Sankirtan party, and many of the non-chanters were joining the chanting devotees. Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, were any of the chanters becoming non-chanters? And Srila Prabhupada said, no, that is not possible. Their name is already written down, going back home, back to Godhead. So once we take up Krishna consciousness, even though some devotees sometimes slip away, fall away from Krishna consciousness, their service they've rendered is eternally in their bank balance. And either later in this life or in the next life they will pick it up again. So we have to be very humble and very respectful to to all the devotees, and understand that they are very great souls, and understand that any devotees in this Krishna consciousness movement, either now, present now, or in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the pastimes of Krishna, these great devotees can give us wonderful association, and by hearing their pastimes or serving even devotees now in the ISKCON movement, and with a humble attitude, we can become very much purified. I was reading, there's a verse I was reading, I've got it here actually, it's from the 4th canto. Gunadikam mudam lipshet anakrusham gunadamat maitrim samad anvichen na tapo abhibhuyate. So every man should act like this. When he meets a person more qualified than himself, he should be very pleased. When he meets someone less qualified than himself, he should be compassionate toward him. And when he meets someone equal to himself, he should make friendship with him. In this way, one is never affected by the threefold miseries of this material world. So this should be our business, that we should learn to develop these relationships, that anyone who's more qualified than ourselves, we should be very pleased to meet them and to serve them and to associate with them and inquire from them how to make advancement in Krishna consciousness. Anyone who's less qualified, then we should be compassionate and try to give them Krishna consciousness. And anyone who's on an equal level, we should try to be develop a strong friendship with them. And in this way, as the verse states, we can be completely unaffected by the threefold miseries of the material world. So we should always see the good qualities in the devotees, and always realize that we need their association, we need their guidance in Krishna consciousness. Without the association of devotees, it's very difficult to make advancement. Just like, I'll tell another story to finish. There was a community of Christians, and they started criticizing each other, and they fault finding, saying, he's got so many faults and this one's got so many faults. And then gradually a lot of the brothers were leaving their community, and there was only a few left. And then they started to think, what are we going to do? Everyone's leaving our community. And they were thinking, maybe we should speak to the local rabbi in the local town. So they went to see the local rabbi, and he said, one of you will be the Messiah. So they came back and they said, well, it can't be him, because they have all these faults. But then they started to think, well, it can't be me, I've got so many faults myself. But maybe it could be him, or maybe it could be her, because they have so much devotion to God and so much dedication in their service to God, and bringing other people to the process of devotion to God. And because they changed their whole mentality, they were thinking so nicely and respectfully towards the other devotees in their community, then one by one, so many people started to come back into the community. So this is a very nice mood to have, that we should always be very humble and think that without the association of devotees, without their guidance, without the opportunity to serve them and serve Krishna in their association, then I cannot make advancement in Krishna consciousness. Like sometimes devotees may think, well, I don't need the association of devotees. I practice at home all the time. I chant my rounds, I read these books, I worship my deities, I eat the prasad I've offered to Krishna at home. But Prabhupada said, one stick is easily broken. But if we do all those activities in the association of devotees, we feel much more strength and much more freedom from Maya, freedom from the temptations of the material world. One stick is easily broken, but a bunch of sticks very difficult to break. So this is the safest place in the material world, in these spiritual communities, in the association of devotees. The most important thing in our Krishna consciousness is the association of devotees, because our whole Krishna consciousness life has come about by associating with devotees, right? If Srila Prabhupada didn't come to the Western countries, none of us would be here. Thousands and tens, hundreds of thousands or millions of devotees in this ISKCON movement would not be practicing Krishna consciousness if it wasn't for one pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada coming to give his association and give his wonderful wisdom and giving us this process of Krishna consciousness. So it's, and we see the whole pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates. It's all made up of this association of devotees, rendering devotional service to Krishna, chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, dancing in ecstasy, taking prasadam, preaching Krishna consciousness. They're all performing all these activities in the association of devotees constantly. You never hear that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or any of these great devotees are by themselves practicing Krishna consciousness. So there's a very great lesson we can take from these wonderful pastimes. Not only these wonderful instructions from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but seeing how these devotees are always associating with one another in the association of the Lord himself, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So I'll finish there. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Microphones here. Yes.
Hare Krishna, thank you for a nice class. And I think we, as Grihastas, can all relate to the roller coaster and the feedback. But I have just like a further question. But how do you, what I often see is that, you know, you get too, like really fixated in our sadhana. We have to chant. I know there's no interruption. Can't interrupt, I'm chanting right now, but then you have your husband and your children or your wife at home. And maybe this is what I understood is also a Prabhupada kind of said, like, well, your children are like your deities. So if you can't take care of your children properly, then deity worship is basically not that valuable. Like, it's the most important thing within your grihastha life is your children and your family. So my question is, because obviously you need to have a good sadhana and chant, how do you find that balance in becoming not becoming too fixated where you actually miss the point that you need to also serve your family? And how do you find that balance?
Well, it takes a lot of practice, and like Prabhupada did say that looking after the children in your family life for their material and spiritual needs is as important or more important than worshipping the deity. If you're worshipping your deity at home or worshipping the deity in a temple or chanting your rounds, but you're neglecting your children or your family members and their needs, then that's not proper, you know. Better.
Yeah. Then you have the other side where you get too caught up.
Yeah.
It's such a hard.
Has to be a balance. So you should try and chant your rounds and do your sadhana, but sometimes you may have to compromise that a bit. But then maybe you can't get all your 16 rounds done some days, and you can try and make it up at other times. And but Prabhupada did say also that some devotees in the early days were trying to chant more than 16 rounds. They weren't grihastas, they were sannyasis actually. And they were thinking, now that I've taken sannyas, I can chant 25 rounds, 32, 64 rounds a day. Prabhupada said, you don't have any time to chant more than 16 rounds a day. You have so much service to do in this Krishna consciousness movement. So especially in grihastha life, you'll find you'll be lucky to chant 16 rounds. If you're chanting 16 rounds a day, you're doing really well. So don't be upset if some days your sadhana is a bit neglected, but try and keep a really Krishna conscious environment in your house, having all the books there, the pictures, having bhajans playing all the time. I said this example a few times that Tamal Krishna Maharaj said one of his grihastha couples, they were arguing, but then they decided they would play Prabhupada bhajan like 24 hours a day in the house. And he said after that there was no more arguments. And he said he stayed there once, and even him, he said it was like difficult to handle having bhajan going 24 hours a day, through the night, through the day. But yeah, just and obviously, you know, when you have children, you have to do so many things like play games with them and play sports with them and take them to the park and swing them on the swings, so many things like that. They don't want to just come and hear Bhagavatam class and chant Hare Krishna on beads all day long. They just want to have fun, right? And so you have to also be there to have fun with them. So, but you can chant at the same time, or have some bhajan in the background and try and think of Krishna while you, like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Mam Manushmala Yojita. Therefore you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, at the same time perform your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me, and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. So like Arjuna, he was perfectly Krishna conscious. He was not only thinking of Krishna in his mind, and no doubt chanting Hare Krishna. It said that Arjuna, you know, he was so Krishna conscious that even his hair was chanting Hare Krishna. So he was not only thinking of Krishna, but he was carrying out his prescribed duty of fighting. And he was, you know, on the battlefield. So Grihastha life is like a battlefield. But we can always internally think of Krishna, and externally, you know, do our service, even if it's seemingly somewhat a bit mundane with the children. But that's, you can also say in a higher sense, those activities of looking after the children, even, you know, bathing them or cleansing them or changing nappies, whatever, it's ultimately it's part of your Krishna consciousness. It's part of your purification. It's part of your advancement. And if you can remember Krishna's pastimes and chant the holy names at the same time, then all the better.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to add to that, or any other questions?
Just wondering with these spiritual emphases that Prabhupada set up all over the world, is it also local call here?
Local call, yeah. Well, it's not different from Vrindavan and Mayapur. All these temples around the world coming here. It's a shortcut process to Krishna. These temples like New Govardhan, New Gokul, New Vrindavan, wherever you go around the world, are as good as Mayapur and Vrindavan. You can be as Krishna conscious as you can in Mayapur or Vrindavan, or as you are in the spiritual world. And we see many examples of many devotees here, 24 hours a day, they are fully Krishna conscious. They're always engaged in some service, they're always chanting, they're always associating with devotees, they're always immersed in reading these wonderful pastimes. So yeah, thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Special mantra, Prashadam mantra, so we better finish there and go for the next part of the program. Mahaprashadam ki jai, Sri Caitanya Caritamrita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.